Welcome back to the Quenta Accords. Today we're going to be talking about the Isle of Almaren and harmonizing it with the Isle of Madagascar. This will be the first location spotlight for the channel, but the evidence supporting this theory is speculative at best. Due to how far back in time the Valar resided on this island, we must rewind the Earth's timeline to the Cambrian period, so roughly 500 million years ago to when the supercontinents Gondwana and Laurasia spanned the Earth. Considering the ancient geological timelines, I would like to propose this theory as light-hearted, fun, and highly imaginative.
History became legend. Legend became myth.
From the Silmarillion, the Quenta Silmarillion, the history of the Silmarils, Chapter 1 of the Beginning of Days. Then the seeds that Yavanna had sown began swiftly to sprout and to burgeon, and there arose a multitude of growing things, great and small, mosses and grasses and great ferns, and trees whose tops were crowned with cloud as they were living mountains, but whose feet were wrapped in a green twilight. And beasts came forth and dwelt in the grassy plains, or in the rivers and the lakes, or walked in the shadows of the woods. As yet no flower had bloomed, nor any bird had sung, for these things waited still their time in the bosom of Yavanna. But wealth there was of her imagining, and nowhere more rich than in the midmost parts of the earth, where the light of both the lamps met and blended. And there upon the Isle of Almaren, in the great lake, was the first dwelling of the Valar, when all things were young, and new made green was yet a marvel in the eyes of the makers, and they were long content. The Isle of Almaren was in the center of the great lake in early Middle Earth. To the north was the lamp of Aluin, and to the south was the lamp of Ormal, and their lights blended together upon the great Isle of Almaren. There have been a number of proposed supercontinents to have existed in the annals of time upon the earth. However, none quite resonate with Tolkien's location of Almaren than Gondwana in the past. In Tolkien's Legendarium, there are generally two continents of knowledge, Aman, to which is the North American Creighton, and Middle Earth. I will save the corresponding evidence supporting the theory that Aman is North America for another video. For now, we'll focus on Middle Earth, Almaren, and Madagascar. Gondwana broke apart from the following smaller continents: South America, Africa, Australia, Antarctica, and Zealandia. The tectonic plates to which danced upon the Earth and Nessa swiftly shifted in the Valian years were the African plate, the Antarctic plate, the Indo-Australian plate, and the South American plate. Now let's evaluate the map of our world. Which continent stands out in the middle of it all? Africa, right? And of Africa, are there any famous islands? Yes, there is one, and it's Madagascar. What did Madagascar look like among the vast lands of Gondwana? Well, we can't know for sure, but based upon research of the Mozambique belt, we can hypothesize. Was there a great lake surrounding Madagascar in the distant past? Many geologists consider that the Mozambique Ocean formed during the breakup of Rodinia between 800 and 700 million years ago, accompanied by volcanic activity. Magmatism from this period is found in East Africa and Madagascar, although not in the southern Mozambique belt. The ocean probably separated the Kalahari Craton from the combined Congo-Tanzania Craton, and separated the Madagascar-India block from the Congo-Tanzania block. The ocean began closing between Madagascar, India, and Congo-Tanzania between 700 and 580 million years ago, with closure between 600 and 500 million years ago. Volcanic activity? Magmatism? Are these not attributes of Melkor's realm? A quote from the Ainulindale, music of the Ainur. And he, Melkor, descended upon Arda in power and majesty, greater than any other of the Valar, as a mountain that wades in the sea and has its head above the clouds, and is clad in ice and crowned with smoke and fire. And so of this Mozambique ocean stood a small island to which has been anchored off the east coast of Africa for millions and millions of years. Madagascar, the home to an abundance of plants and animals found nowhere else on Earth. Then the seeds that Yavanna had sown began swiftly to sprout and to burgeon, and there arose a multitude of growing things, great and small, mosses and grasses and great ferns, and trees whose tops were crowned with cloud as they were living mountains, but whose feet were wrapped in a green twilight. The Cambrian explosion happened more than 500 million years ago. It was when most of the major animal groups started to appear in the fossil record, a time of rapid expansion of different forms of life on Earth. Plant life diversified substantially, and so this is where we can locate the spring of Arda in Tolkien's Valian years, the years of the lamps. And beasts came forth and dwelt in the grassy plains, or in the rivers and the lakes, or walk in the shadows of the woods. As yet no flower had bloomed, nor any bird had sung, for these things waited still their time in the bosom of Yavanna. But wealth there was of her imagining, and nowhere more rich than in the midmost parts of the earth, where the light of both the lamps met and blended. During the Cambrian explosion, almost all present-day animal phyla appeared, finding some sort of genetic ancestor 500 million years ago. And there upon the Isle of Almaren, in the Great Lake, was the first dwelling of the Valar, when all things were young, and new made green was yet a marvel in the eyes of the makers, and they were long content. As a result of Madagascar's long isolation from neighboring continents, it is home to various endemic plants and animals found nowhere else on Earth. Approximately 90% of all plant and animal species found on Madagascar are endemic. Interestingly, this has led ecologists to refer to Madagascar as the eighth continent. Do you think the Valar had anything to do with that? Almaren in Quenya means blessedness, blessings, good fortune, and bliss. Apparently the term Madagascar was a corrupted transliteration of Mogadishu by Marco Polo's misreading of Arabic. Mogadishu has many attested meanings. However, one interesting definition is the Arabic term mads, which means hallowed place or holy place. From Persian, Mogadishu is broken down as Makad and Sa, and this means seat of Shah, or seat of the king. And Shah, or Sa, can trace its origins from Proto-Indo-European as Kasayati, which is he rules and he has power over. Is this the Valar, the powers of Arda? The actual misconstrued term was Arabic, Jazirat al-Malai, or the island of Malai. Malai comes from Arabic to mean to fill, to satisfy the heart, and to help someone in something. From the Silmarillion, the Quenta Silmarillion, the history of the Silmarils, chapter 1 of the beginning of days. Now therefore the Valar were gathered upon Almaren, fearing no evil. And because of the light of Illuin, they did not perceive the shadow in the north that was cast from afar by Melkor, for he was grown dark as the night of the void. And it is sung, that in the feast of the spring of Arda, Tokus espoused Nessa, the sister of Orme, and she danced before the Valar upon the green grass of Almaren. Later on, in chapter 1 of the beginning of days, Melkor returned to Arda when Tokus was asleep. He assailed the lights of the lamps of Illuin and Ormal and cast down their pillars. The Valar could not overtake Melkor, for he retreated to the north and beneath the earth. The greater part of their strength was needed to restrain the tumults of the earth, and they feared to rend the earth again, until they knew where the children of Iluvatar were dwelling. Thus ended the spring of Arda. The dwelling of the Valar upon Almaren was utterly destroyed, and they had no abiding place upon the face of the earth. Therefore they departed from Middle-earth and went to the land of Aman, the westernmost of all lands upon the borders of the world, for its west shores looked upon the outer sea, that is called by the elves Akaya, encircling the kingdom of Arda. As stated before, it was sung in the feast of the spring of Arda, Tokos married Nessa, and she danced before the Valar upon the green grass of Almaren. If Nessa represents the tectonic plates, we can theorize this sort of dance she performed before the Valar represents the moving of the island of Madagascar to the center of the supercontinent of Gondwana. You see, Madagascar was formerly located in the central part of the supercontinent Gondwana. It contains part of the East African origin which formed in the Neo-Proterozoic to Cambrian assembly of Gondwana. This heavily influenced the geology of central and northern Madagascar. The entire island can be divided into 4 tectonic and geologic units: the Antongal Block, the Antan-Arivo Block, the Bekele Belt in the south, and the Bamarivo Belt in the far north. The blocks in the northern part of the island are made up of Archean cratonic material dating back to 4 billion years ago. The Antongal Block has been linked with the Darwar Formation of India. However, the Antananarivo Block to the west has been too heavily altered to link easily to another continent. This block should be connected to Africa, but no evidence has been found. Did Melkor, causing the destruction of Almaren, have something to do with this? Let's go back to our Spring of Arda, or Cambrian explosion, 539 million years ago. It is presumed to have lasted 13 to 25 million years. Subtract 25 million years from 539 million years, and you get 514 million years. What is dated to occur at the 514 million year mark? The End-Botomian mass extinction, also known as the late early Cambrian extinctions. Estimates for the decline in global diversity over these events range from 50% of marine genera up to 80%. What or who caused such a loss of life? There are several hypotheses for the causes. There is evidence that major changes in the carbon cycle and sea level occurred during this time. Evidence also exists for the development of anoxia, a loss of oxygen, in some environments in the ocean. One hypothesis that unifies this evidence links these environmental changes to widespread volcanic eruptions caused by the emplacement of the Kalkarinji large igneous province. These widespread eruptions have injected large amounts of greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, causing warming of the climate and subsequent acidification and loss of oxygen in the oceans. However, the precise timing between the eruptions and the extinction events remain unresolved. And so it remains a mystery. Do you think the widespread eruptions caused this massive extinction? If we were to link our Earth's timeline to Tolkien's timeline of the Spring of Arda and loss of Almaren, my answer would be yes. Melkor, who has been described as a mountain that wades in the sea and has its head above the clouds and is clad in ice and crowned with smoke and fire. Volcanoes clad in icy rock from the bottom and crowned with smoke and fire. Sure sounds like the work of Melkor. Is he responsible for the many volcanic events causing so many extinctions in years past? These are the sort of questions I'd like to ask on this channel, to better understand how our Earth evolved from nature using Tolkien's Legendarium as a reference point. And so that's the Quenta of the Isle of Almaren and Isle of Madagascar. If you're a saved subscriber over on my Patreon, you'll gain access to my more personal study behind Almaren and Madagascar. You'll find the link down below. Thanks for watching, and if you like this video and would like to remember the Spring of Arda and how wonderful Yavanna harbored life on Earth, gently press that like and subscribe button, like a leaf falling to the ground and fertilizing the soil, allowing life to live on.